So what does this mean to you as a customer? Dave already foreshadowed this. First of all, we aren't changing anything about the products. We very specifically chose the 5 core companies that are in the foundation for a reason. And that's because they've got great products that have got a great customer following. So we're going to keep all those in place. While we are operating under the Revalize name, we don't need to do anything in terms of changing contracts or anything like that. The AGI entity still exists underneath Revalize. And so all the contracts and various administration, no action required there. Our overall support team is much, much larger than any of the 5 companies had independently. And that scale should allow us to serve you better and serve you around the world. We'll be operating under the Revalize brand, but the AGI32.com and Lighting Analysts website will continue to be active in the near term. And then we are integrating the 5 companies at a functional level. So we'll have one engineering team, we'll have one support team, that sort of thing. And 100% of the team at LAI are part of Revalize. You shouldn't expect any changes in your contacts or how things are supported, and you should continue to get great service. So, Dave, I went through a bunch there. Here's the Revalize.com website. I encourage you to go check it out. It's revalizesoftware.com, and you can do some exploring. Dave, what are some topics I might have left out or anything you want to add?
Oh gosh, Jim, I think it's relatively clear. There's a number of interesting questions that I was watching pop up, and some of the folks are like, well, how does this relate to designers, right? I mean, we're talking a lot about manufacturers, but ultimately what manufacturers want is to be able to serve specifiers better, right? So the ability to get from design of a lighting system all the way through to quotes and eventually to sale is I think an ultimate goal. And I've talked to a number of people in the manufacturing sector that say this is a little bit weak right now. So I think that's something that you can sort of see where we're going there. Obviously, we want to serve designers better and to be able to integrate the tools that we have and move forward in making the tools better and allow more performance for the types of things that we think the future is going to bring. So I think there's probably a lot of questions. A lot of people say, wow, what does fluid dynamics have to do with lighting? And the truth is, from a close perspective, nothing. But from a mile up, they both fit in the configure price quote CPQ system. So I think that's what Revalize is striving to build is a system of verticals that will be able to handle different industrial systems and do it well and get all the way through that CPQ chain. So I think that's my perspective, at least at this point. So.
Right. Well, Dave, your comment made me think I should give you a little bit more on my background. A company that I was previously the CEO of is called Avitru. It's the developer of AIA Master Spec. And so all of my customers were designers, architects, engineers, and specifiers, along with the various building product manufacturers that comprise, all of the master format specification guide. And I can appreciate how it may seem that what LAI does might be disconnected from some of the other things that I described, but it's ultimately about helping manufacturers get specified into projects and doing that accurately. And I would also say this might not be the only component that has to do with lighting that will ever be part of Revalize. So, we'll continue to morph and grow. But I know there's a few questions in the chat. David, do you want to read off a few of those for us to answer?
Sure. Yeah, we have a number of questions. There's a number of people that have phrased it in different ways, asking what are going to be the changes to AGI as a part of this?
Dave and Todd have a great roadmap for the product, and we plan to continue investing in that roadmap. And, we have no plans of any kind to, reduce support for or sunset or do anything like that to any of the products across any of the companies, but most particularly Lighting Analysts, which I think has a very mission critical capability that many of you depend on.
And similar to that, there's a number of questions phrased in different ways about, hey, we really like AGI 32. We've been getting great support. Are we going to continue to see that great support and those great products?
Well, it's all the same people that are involved, but we're adding to that team in the form of the 300 employees that comprise Revalize. And so that should allow us to be even more specialized in how we provide support, in how we build out the product, how we actually deliver on the engineering of that product. So my expectation is you should be in a better place with a larger scale team to be able to support the work that LAI has started.
Another question here is, will Revalize continue to offer educational licensing for AGI 32 and other software?
Particularly when it comes to engineering simulations like an AGI 32 or like pipe flow from one of the other companies, reaching these experts at the time they're in the education phase of their career, I think is critically important. And so certainly my plan is that we will continue to offer education licenses. I think that's just a great way to reach early career professionals.
Great. A lot of product specific questions. I'll try and hit on one or two of these, but there's a number of more detailed product questions like, will software like photometric power tools and photometric toolbox continue to be updated?
Continue to be updated, yes. Dave, if there's specifics on those products that we should highlight, please do so. But our plan is to continue, investing in the roadmap.
Yeah, definitely. Well, each product has a pretty specific roadmap, and it's not really made public for a number of reasons. Most software companies don't want to hang out a shingle and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is the time frame, because the software business is incredibly difficult. But if I can sort of wind up to a little higher view of the whole picture here, I'm watching the chats, and I know a lot of you folks personally, and thank you for attending. It's awesome. But when Todd and I are both 65 years old, so, we're not spring chickens anymore, and we've built an amazing company. And it was our goal to be able to acquire more resources for Lighting Analysts, to be able to have more development muscle, more support muscle, better e-commerce experiences, just all around a better performing company happens under a bigger umbrella, right? So we wanted the best opportunities for our people moving forward. And both Todd and I will continue to put our input in and help out Jim and the team as they move forward. Who knows? You may see me at Light Fair for years and years, but I don't know that. But anyway, so this is really a good thing for Lighting Analysts as a whole. It's great for our people, and there is no plan to ever stop the amount of personal touch that we have here with our customer base. That's, I think, what has brought us success over 37 years. And if the Revalize folks understand the way we do things, which I believe they do, that's not going to change. So it will continue to be great. Product specific questions, gosh, there's a whole slew of them about when will you do this, when will you do that. That's all roadmap kind of stuff. Truthfully, those are really hard to address in a venue like this, especially since I'm not the development team. But, I don't want to talk out of school. But at any rate, a lot of these things are actually, as I'm watching them spin up, they're on the existing roadmap already. And we're already making progress under Revalize to take the hood off existing products and to move forward with enhancements to those products. So I'm not going to address specifics. Photometric toolbox, photometric power tools, both of those have a distinct audience, especially photometric power tools has a very distinct audience. We don't plan on stopping that product. I mean, it's an amazing product, but it's a very limited market product. Photometric toolbox has super wide appeal, but it obviously needs a facelift, and that's on the roadmap. So we will be moving forward with increased muscle under Revalize, and I think that's the bottom line.
So a lot of great questions pouring in. Many of them seem to be getting at the question of how are we going to leverage the different products across all the companies? So, for example, is there a timeline for Revalize to have a workflow or data flow between AGI designs and the quote generation platforms that you mentioned? Another question that was related, can your CPQ tool capture total cost of ownership, installation, maintenance, energy costs, those sorts of metrics to inform long-term capital investments. So questions around what do these other products do and how will they be integrated with each other over time?
Yeah, so excellent question. We're 3 weeks into this. we announced exactly 3 weeks ago, and we have not sort of fully buttoned down what that's going to look like. Across these 5 companies, we've got some really cool technologies and cool capabilities. For example, one of the companies brings us an AR VR capability that's based on the Unity gaming engine. Could that be applied in the use case of lighting or one of the other sort of sectors that we operate in? Yeah, I would think so. And so we're going to have to go through and identify what are the sort of higher priority places that we ought to try to, cross-pollinate some of these technologies, and where are there customers that, are willing to pay for those kinds of things. And, we'll make those decisions and we'll, begin the engineering effort to deliver them. But it's exciting that we have this many options.
As a follow-up to that, will AGI 32 eventually see some VR AR integration, or will it be phased into a separate product or version? And if there is someone interested in VR AR, I guess, how do they get in touch with us to learn more about that? Yeah,
I'd love to understand, what the use case for that is and how that might work, because like I said, we've got the assets, and it's a question of, if there's a use case that people would really get value from, then that's probably something we should invest in.
So I said we weren't going to go too far into specific product questions, but we've had, I think, at least 3 people ask specifically about street and area lighting design. Will we continue to support that?
Dave, that one's yours.
Well, I think that there's no way that the Revalize folks would not continue to support street and area lighting design. It's a very important part of the lighting community. And right now, there could be some interesting things happening in terms of moving forward in street lighting design. So in terms of calculational capabilities. So we've been sort of had our pulse on that our finger on that pulse for a long time. And we're waiting for a couple of things to change a little bit before we'll be able to do a whole bunch more in terms of street lighting. And so there's no way that I think Revalize is going to drop any markets that we're in. I mean, AGI 32, Loom Tools, Photometric Toolbox, and so on all serve some pretty distinct needs in the lighting community, and I think that will continue, and we will be looking for other opportunities as well, obviously, in terms of joining up quoting tools and that sort of thing. So there's tons of opportunity here, and as a little tiny 10-person firm, Lighting Analysts just was not getting it done fast enough, and that's one of the primary goals of looking for this type of an organization to join with. So,
Dave, I think the first time you and I ever met, you demoed AGI 32 by putting a parking lot together and lighting it up. I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, retrofit in your jammies with Google Earth. Yeah. Simple but effective stuff.
We have a number of comments complimentary to Dave and his age. Now that
you started the company when I was 12, yeah.
Not that you were fishing for that, but the next question here was about geographic expansion, specifically around how we're going to manage and engage in Latin America. We've seen, and with languages. I think that more broadly, there's another question here about how we're going to think about expanding geographically as well.
Our aspiration at Revalize is to be able to serve multinational organizations in the geographies that they operate. Right now, our operational footprint is really in the US and the UK, but we fully intend to realize that aspiration, and you can expect that we would expand our operational footprint over time. Also recognize the need to provide support in multiple languages. And of course, the LAI customer base is literally all over the globe. So we'll be sort of leveraging the fact that we've got this large, broad customer base to continue investing in our own operations.
Question from Daniel: will we still have the Knowledge Center where we can all share our own expertise and experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. We very much believe in what we call knowledge-centered services, and we will be investing more in knowledge management capabilities so that the different communities of constituents that we serve across the Revalize customer base will have an opportunity to compare notes with each other, support one another, and create those communities. So what LAI has done as a very small organization is impressive, and we'd like to just expand on that.
I think we've touched on this a few times, but because there are a couple questions, want to make sure we hit on this. Just what level of commitment can we make as Revalize that the LAI family of products is not going to be sidelined or abandoned in the near or distant future?
I don't know how to prove my statement. All I can do is make a statement that we bought LAI for a reason, and it's because of its great products and the great customer following that those products have. And it wouldn't make any business sense for us to sunset the product, certainly, or even stop investing in the product. So again, not sure how to prove it to you on this call, but watch this space and we will continue to invest.
Another question is an interesting one, saying, assuming there's going to be an increased focus on suppliers and manufacturers, will AGI still permit the use of data from non-Revalize manufacturers, and sort of how does that work?
Yeah, I think I understand the nuance of that question. It's important if you're a specifier or designer to know everything that's out there, not just the people that signed up under a certain arrangement, to be part of the catalog. And so it's sort of a fine line between offering maybe a more sophisticated service to a manufacturer to have a broader listing versus maybe a smaller footprint of content, but it was unpaid, but that created value for the user because they can see everything. And we dealt with that when I was managing master spec, and we'll have to navigate that fine line here. But the value is created when the communities come together, where all the manufacturers are represented and all the engineers and specifiers and designers are represented. And that creates a really nice network effect. And we certainly want to do whatever we can to facilitate that happening.
All right. Trying to get to all the questions. There's a lot here, both in the question box and the chat. I'll try to hit one or two more. What benefits do you anticipate for sales reps using the AGI software?
Dave, that one might have too much subtlety for me to answer.
I think that's a very difficult question to answer because sales reps or agencies, manufacturers, agents, all use different systems now to quote and deal with your distributors and your end users and so on. And that's a segment of the business that I personally don't understand very well. But I do believe that the whole CPQ target is to be able to go all the way from design and through all the various elements of the supply chain all the way to a sale. So there are certainly some moving parts in that chain that I profess to not understand very well. And Jim, you might have taken yourself out of that picture too soon, because you might be more able to answer that. But I believe the goal is right now, and I've talked to we have tons of agents that use our software, especially AGI 32. There are some weak links in the system of getting from this is the quantity of product required of this particular type to pricing to life cycle costs and onwards to distribution and servicing the customer. So there are definitely some pain points in that chain right now. And I think it is the Revalize team's goal to smooth some of that out. So again, we're 3 weeks into this. It's a lot of these questions are big, and I don't think we have perfect answers for them, but that's
the chevron diagram that I shared a few slides earlier of connecting from end to end. Ultimately, we'd like to be able to connect that across each of the segments that we serve, including lighting equipment. So, right now, AGI 32 sits at the left end of this. There's not a particular reason why we can't connect it from end to end.
Yeah, so there's a follow-up question from AC here around, I think there's some confusion around the support for the hundreds of lighting fixture manufacturers' photometric information. And I think the answer is we're continuing to support them fully. And the question is kind of, I think if I'm reading this correctly, and apologies if I'm not understanding, but I think the question is, will all manufacturers be required to be a part of the Revalize universe in order to be used in AGI 32? I believe that's the question, and maybe we could just sort of clarify that.
Jim, if it's all right, I can kind of address some of that a little bit. And while I don't have a crystal ball for ultimately where Revalize wants to go with this, I do believe that it would be a bad business decision to lock down the product to only manufacturers that choose to participate in a catalog. What I believe is a better business decision is for the catalog-based manufacturers to have the ability to possibly move through a software cycle that is more robust than what happens to manufacturers who are not necessarily part of the catalog, because there are obviously, and when you look at the Instabase, there are, I don't know, 100 plus manufacturers up there, 1 million photometric files, but that is no way, shape, or form covering all the lighting universe of product data. And we have, in fact, I would say the majority of our customers are pulling photometric data from elsewhere to utilize in the calculation tools. So that is an impetus to other manufacturers to say, wow, if I participate in the catalog, then maybe I can participate in the rest of the chain of product as well. But if not, my designers can still get to my product, can still use can still use the AGI 32 calculation tools, Loom Tools calculation tools, et cetera, and deal with my photometric files. And I choose not to play in the catalog at this point in time. I mean, that's a complicated question, but that's always been our philosophy at Lighting Analysts, and I don't think that's going to change dramatically.
Yeah, I'm in complete alignment with that answer, Dave. Well stated.
Well, there's a lot of other questions here. I think I'll try to wrap up now, but we'll make sure to follow up offline on all of these. There's a lot of great product suggestions and things like that will definitely be taken into account. But in terms of for time purposes, we'll try and take those offline.
Well, thank you everyone for the great engagement here. Love seeing the chat. Love the depth of the Q&A. It's obvious that you're very passionate about what you do and the tools you use. And we're excited to serve you going forward here. Thanks for joining on the webinar. And thank you, Dave, for the interaction.
I would like to close and just real quickly in that I am more than happy to field some of these questions that obviously didn't get answered because they're super specific. You know how to find me. Feel free to populate my inbox. Just be patient. The answers may not come immediately. So it's a busy day. Thanks again, everyone. I really
Thank you, everyone.